Beauty. Now, I'm sure you might be thinking, what? This is just rage baiting. You know what? Daddy's broke and I'm starving for paying them bills. So here we are. It's a tier list video because it works and I need money. So if you think this is a cheap cash grab, you know what? You're absolutely fucking right. It is. So let's get into this delicious mess of a video. Now. This is obviously an Incarnon tier list video. And we've added the new Incarnon adapters. So we'll have everything here, and it will be very delicious, and I will have a lot of people mad at me, and they can all eat my ass. So we will be going through by melee first, and then primaries, and then secondaries. Let us begin. First, we have Cyber Incarnon. Now, mats... Big Poppy Mats and Watermelon too. I love you guys so much. And this is gonna hurt you. But I gotta be honest here with Cyber. This thing, it's D tier. Now, some might even say F tier. But, I mean, it's a hammer, right? It's a hammer that applies cold stuff. But you could also just use another hammer and kill it instead. So it's the same exact play style basically with Cyber as any other hammer for a slamming, except it doesn't kill stuff. So it's just, I don't know, it's a little inferior. I wish they made the clouds of ice bigger, more effective, actually useful. That would be great. Anku is surprisingly good. I actually think it's way better than people can give it credit for, especially because of the arcane that came out with Jade Shadows that lets you add status procs when you lift an enemy. You can like get the guaranteed slash procs and then have massive slash procs from slam attacks. I actually think it's a very, very solid melee weapon. So one of my favorite weapons to use with Varuna. I would put it in B tier because it's not super comfortable to use, but it is quite effective and I really enjoy using it. The Haste is, I'd say it's A tier. It's pretty strong. It's got projectiles. They're not like crazy insane, but they do decent damage. They can spread statuses, and it just got its new augment with Nightwave, so it's pretty good. Ceramic Dagger is, this is gonna be a tough one because there's different ways to use it. You can use it as like a combo stat stick for using a secondary outburst on a weapon, or you just use it as the weapon itself, but I'm going to put in A tier for either one of those, I guess. It's still a solid weapon. It's got the weird blade on the heavy attack, but it's not crazy or anything. Skana. Skana has like one of the highest crit rates of any, or base crit rate of any weapon in the game. You can get 50%, but you can still overkill on crit rate. That is the thing that can happen in this game, and it's pretty easy to do when it comes to a melee weapon. So it's not that great. There's much better options. It's just kind of a melee that has high crit chance. Other than that, there isn't really anything special about it. And for stat sticks, for pseudo exalteds, you got much better options. Mark 1 bow. Kind of similar in Skana. It doesn't really have anything going for it. It's got some niche uses as a stat stick for status builds on pseudo exalteds, but those, in my experience and opinion, are inferior to just outright crit builds. And then if you use it otherwise, it's just going to be high range on a staff, but that's worse than just building high range on a lot of other weapons, especially like daggers. Magistar. I mean, come on. We all know it's going to go S tier. It's Magistar. Whether you use it as a stat stick or for killing stuff, it's the best. It literally outclasses everything else in the game for either way you end up using it. It's ridiculous. And you can use both the Sanctity version and the normal version, both having value. The normal Magistar Incarnon being the better for stat sticks, and the Sanctity being better for DOT damage. I believe the normal Magistar actually does have higher damage up front for slam attacks as well, but you know, this is a melee influence meta, so you are going to want the status procs more, so Sanctity's better in that case. But either way, very, very overpowered weapon. Nami Solo, it's similar to a dagger because it's high follow through and it's got really high range. I ranked it pretty low last time, but I don't know. I still feel like their daggers are better. Like Praetos is going to be better in my experience. They do very similar things. If you want a sword specifically instead of a dagger or something, it will be pretty good. So I'm going to put this in B tier. And we will sort this out at the end of the video, like, you know, because right now we're just putting them in the tiers, but at the end we'll, like, clean up the tiers a bit. Okina Incarnon. This is one of the new ones, and it's pretty good with the little daggers flying everywhere. It kills stuff in low-end missions, and on high-end it can free stuff everywhere. I wouldn't say it's as broken as some people say it is, but it's definitely, like, top of A tier, I'd say. Not game-breaking, though. Thorax, F tier. Disgusting. Make it stop. It's just... Please. Fix it. Buff it, DE. It's without the flames doing anything, because they don't do anything. It's just fists with decent stats. But fists aren't amazing in the first place. And I don't know. It's just... It needs some help. Furus, S tier. This thing... all the way up to level cap, can pulverize stuff without any buffing, any armor strip, literally anything. It just kills everything. It's so freaking overpowered. This is, if I need to do an easy level cap run, I bring Furus. It's so free. It is just, I can't overstate how powerful the Furus is. Dual Eye Core. Despite its nerfs in the past, the gas clouds are still pretty crazy, especially in combination with Saren. Not that there's anything in the game that's not crazy with Saren, but they're still just really good for spamming the crap out of hitting stuff and having damage everywhere. I still think they are better than the Okina, and I would put them in S tier. Akin Brunt is better than it used to be, still questionable, but not horrible. I'd put it in C tier, though. I really wish the axes it threw, the spectral axes, did more damage, because otherwise it's just a sword and shield. It doesn't have a lot going for it, other than it being a sword and shield. And I don't think a weapon should be given a good rating just off the basis of what kind of weapon it is, right? Like, there's other sword and shields in the game. I would rather use Tenet Agendis if I'm going to go for just a sword and shield. And that's all the melees. Now we're on to the primary weapons, which is even more than melees, I believe. Torrid. S tier. It's torrid. It's kind of boring, honestly. I don't really enjoy playing with it. I don't personally have it on my account, but I use it, or I've used it a fair bit on my friend's account, and I'm the one that like leveled it, formed it, built it, whatever, on his account. And it's as broken as people say. It is a very crazy weapon, but it's just kind of there. I honestly hate using it because of how low the zoom is. It just feels weird to me. I don't like it. It's a weapon. I know a lot of people like it. You don't have to dislike it, but I don't care for it. Miter. Miter is, it's on the cusp of S tier. Its biggest issue is that the Incarnon charge is non-existent. When you have to go in back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between Incarnon and normal mode every 2 seconds, it gets real annoying. But if it weren't for that, it would easily be an S tier, because it has a really good augment for killing nullifiers. It does crazy damage. It has crazy AoE. It bounces everywhere. It's heat-seeking, bouncing, exploding projectiles. I mean, come on. It's crazy, but the Incarnon charge really kills it. Dread. This one is... it's really freaking good, but it's straight up just a worse version of Paris in pretty much every single way, except for the new augments for it. The new augments, yes, you have to give up damage to put the augment on, but also you don't, because it gives crit damage if you're invis all the time, so if you use it right, you aren't losing damage. But it lets you go invis on any character in the game, any frame in the game, so that's pretty strong. I'm not really sure, because I do consider Paris to be S tier, which, you know, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess, but is having significantly less damage and utility than Paris, but going invis worth putting in S tier? I don't know. I'm going to put it in A tier for now, but you could make an argument for it being an S tier, I think. Soma, it's Soma. I feel like Soma Incarnon is just a significantly worse version of Boltor and Incarnon. Like, it's just worse in pretty much every way. Why? I love Soma. It's one of my favorite weapons in the game. I freaking love it. It's the first prime gun I ever got back on Xbox One, bro. I loved this thing, but the Incarnon, it really needs some help. It has horrible crits. It's just an okay slash weapon. And we're in a meta where slash is significantly nerfed over what it used to be. We have better options now. It's just not that great. Paris, as I said with Dread, right? Like, Paris is just a way better version of Dread. It's so good. It has fire rates in one of the evolutions, the second evolution, so you don't need to put fire rate on the weapon. It has crazy stats, ungodly status. Holy crap, the status chance can get so high. An augment that gives that 90% status chance and heals you, and it goes in the Excellus slot. You can get this thing with enough multi-shot and status to, on a bow, okay, an Incarnon bow, get all 10 blast procs you need for an explosion in one shot on one enemy. That's incredible. So with blast, oh my goodness gracious, this thing is ridiculously strong. I love it. It's also probably my favorite weapon in the game. Very, very strong, very, very fun. Bratton, a worse version of Burstin, but in some scenarios it can be better with like channel abilities and weird niche stuff, but overall it's just a worse version of Burstin, so I'm going to put an A tier. There's not really much to it other than that. It's very straightforward, just like a full auto weapon that has explosives. It's cool, it's fun, I like it, and I think it feels better to use than Burstin, but Burstin's still just better. Gorgon. Gorgon's actually way better than a lot of people give it credit for, I think, especially after they had given it so many buffs back in the day. After they had released the Incarnon, it does some really good damage. It's an explosive weapon that doesn't have ammo issues, has very big explosions, it has forced heat procs, it's got good damage. The fall off is only like 50 or 60%, which is way less fall off than something like the Kuva Brahma or the Tonkor. It's a very, very good weapon. I would give it a solid A tier. Shrun. Shrun has good Incarnon charge, lots of status, crazy damage, crazy AoE. It's easily an S tier in my opinion. Building it with gas and using it in the right setup can be really, really crazy. I like doing stuff like that. And it's good. It's easy to use and it feels good. Burstin, obviously S tier. It's crazy. Everybody knows Burstin's amazing. It's like the go-to full auto weapon. It shoots ungodly fast. Lots of explosions, lots of damage. Very good weapon. Latrin. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a hot take, I think, to some people. But I think Latrin's not S tier. I would put Latrin in A tier. Above Miter, probably. Again, we'll sort this out later, so this isn't going to be like what it is at the end, the sorting part. But Latrin, it's got multiplicative CO, right? And so does Miter, except the problem is that that only applies to the direct shot, and most of the damage is coming from the explosions. It also doesn't have very high Incarnon charge, and sometimes the explosions don't really bounce around in ways you would like, when you can just do something a little more effective like Burstin or Strun or Tord or any of these are going to feel more consistent than Latrin in my experience. Latrin is still very, very strong, but I wouldn't quite put it in S tier. Dara Vandal. Oh boy, Dara Incarnon, I have quickly fallen in love with it. So this might seem a little biased, but I'm definitely putting it in A tier. Some people be like, Dara in the same tier as Latrin, but I mean, it's Dara. It works extremely well both in the normal form and the Incarnon form. Both modes do massive amounts of damage. Single target damage that you can build punch through super easily, so AoE damage, it works extremely well when you build it with electric. So with electric and punch through, this thing still has good AoE. It can pulverize acolytes like they're nothing. The Incarnon form just deletes them from existence. This thing has huge single target damage and enough AoE that it doesn't feel horrible to use in big groups. I love it. It's definitely in my top 3 favorite weapons in the game. It's so good and so strong. Sybaris. is an easy S tier. Forced Blast procs, I mean, what else do you need in life? Forced Blast procs is ridiculous. Huge Incarnon charge. It's got good fire rate, insane damage, and it's still Sybaris, right? It just turned from a 2-round burst to a 4-round burst with Forced Blast procs. It's the same weapon, and Sybaris is cool. It looks cool as hell. And it's just a very strong weapon with lots of explosions, and we're in an AoE meta, so AoE is going to be king. Boar is actually pretty good. You can't really get headshots with it, but it takes literally 0 brain cells to use Boar. You can be literally brain dead, okay? You can be brain dead, unconscious in the hospital bed, and you can use Boar still. It's that easy to use because it automatically targets enemies in chain link stuff. And you don't even have to get headshots. Headshots aren't a thing on this thing. You just hold the fire button and it kills stuff. It has a very high stats chance. It works really well with like heat or blast. Very strong weapon. It's not as strong as like a lot of these other weapons, but the amount of effort you have to put in on this is non-existent, so it makes it pretty good. Boltor is really, really high single target damage with slash procs. Like some of the highest slash proc damage in the game, but there are other weapons that do similar stuff like Convectrix. I do think this feels better than Convectrix, but Convectrix is better for single target. Boltor is really good. I just did a video on it, and I do think it's a very strong weapon, but it lacks the, multi-target killing ability a lot of these other weapons or weapons in general have nowadays to make it really strong. So I would put it in B tier. Atomos. This thing goes from a beam weapon to a weird lobbing grenade launcher. It's okay. I'm not really sure what to think about it. Like, if you need to melt stuff with fire, you got better options, right? Like furnace and stuff. If you want explosions, you also have better options. It's just kind of there. It's cool and it's fun, but I don't feel like it's very effective. So I'd put it in C tier. If you really want to, you can put it in B tier, right? You can make an argument for that, but I wouldn't put it higher than B tier, and we'll leave it in C for now. Kunai Incarnon. This is also C tier. It's cool. It's fun. It just gets lots of multi-shot and targets heads, but very, very single target based, and throwing knives aren't that great, and it doesn't have a very big Incarnon charge. Despair. This thing sucks ass. The explosions really don't do that much. It has non-existent Incarnon charge. It's just not good. There are so much better options if you want explosions and stuff. I would put this in F tier. Why? It does nothing unique or special, I feel like, other than the fact that it's thrown explosives, I guess, but there's also other ones like that in the game, though the other thrown explosives are worse. It's just not very good. Angstrom. This one is probably the most underrated Incarnon in the game, easily. It's S tier. It has multiplicative CO on the Incarnon form. It shoots fireballs super fast that do massive damage and ricochet off stuff. This thing does so much damage. It's one of the ones you can buy from the market, the Incarnon market, so it's super easy to get. You really won't understand until you use the weapon. Also, the sound and the feel of it, it is so satisfying. It gets all those neurons firing in your brain. Sybaris Incarnon. It is very good. It's like higher damage dual toxo basically, but doesn't shoot as fast. It just got nerfed, buffed, sort of like fixed because it was weird when it first came out. It's still very strong, but I think dual toxo is still just better. So I'd put this in A tier. It's good, but we also have a lot of ricochet weapons. Sestra, another one of the new ones. This one sucks balls, D tier. Why? It's got decent stats, I guess, but that's pretty much it. It just gets crits. If you want a secondary Incarnon that has critical hits, there you go. That's pretty much it. I don't like it. It doesn't feel very good. It doesn't look cool. It doesn't do anything fancy. It's just there. Lotto. In a similar boat as Sybaris, right? Like, it does the same thing as dual toxo, but to a lesser degree, except in even lesser degree. I do like how it feels, though. It's Lotto, and that makes it cool and nostalgic, but I wouldn't really put it higher than B tier. It's still decent on account of it being ricochet shots, but it's not great. I'm gonna jump straight to Bronco real quick because this is the same. It feels and performs very similar to the Lotto. They're in the same boat, honestly. Vasto. Vasto is A tier. It's single target, and it's not like amazing for anything else. But if you need to kill Demolists, even all the way up to level cap, if there's anything that you need to just destroy in less than 1 second, Vasto's the way to go. It's gonna pulverize it if you have the right build. It is so very strong. This thing is hilarious. Dual Toxicist Incarnon. S tier. Still crazy high fire rate. You get tons of fire rate, toxin stuff on the passive from it. It's got crazy chaining capabilities, humongous damage, great Incarnon pool. Even the non-Incarnon mode can pulverize stuff. It does lots of damage. Very strong. Zylok, F tier. Just no. Cyanoid Gamma Core. F tier. Also, please no. I used to put it a little bit higher, but there's more ways to get magnetic now in the game, so that part's not really fancy. And the AoE, I did use it for some sucking purposes on the Incarnon with an Atlas build in the past, but I found better ways to do that. It's just not that great. The damage on the Incarnon form is non-existent. It has forced cold procs, but it's one forced cold proc. On a slow firing weapon, it's not going to do much. Lex. Lex is beautifully strong. Doesn't take much effort to use. Very simple, very straightforward. It's like Arcoplasmor, but it shoots slow and it's a secondary, but it does huge damage. And building this for red crits and gas is really fun and very effective in pretty much everything in the game. That is all of them on the list. Now let's sort it out a bit, right? So starting from the bottom, what is the worst Incarnon in the entire game? I'm going to go with Psylocke still. And then we'll go Gamma Core, then Firax, no, then Despair, then Firax. I mean, because it is still a melee weapon. And then, you know, Sestra, Cybir, and D tier, we'll leave that there. We'll go up here. I'm going to put Akenbrunt at the top, then Skana, no, then Bo, then Atomos, then Skana, then Soma, then Kunai. And then here, I'm going to go Nami So. I don't know, for what it can do, this is probably complete bias, but I feel like Anku's better. I'm going to put Anku at the top. Then Boltor, then Nami Solo. Then Nami Solo, then Boltor, then Lotto, then Bronco. A tier. Top of A tier is going to be Latrin, for sure. Under Latrin, I'm going, you know what? Again, this is going to be a bit of biased here, but I kind of feel like Dare is better than Latrin. Granted, it depends on what you're using the weapon for, right? But I like Dara more. It feels better to use and it kills stuff so effectively. So we'll go Dara, then Latrin, then Miter. No, Dara, Okina, Latrin, Miter. Hates, yada. Gorgon can go up. It's actually quite strong. We'll put it right there. And Boar will be at the... no, Vasudbomb. There we go. And finally, the top. We're going to Slurpy Slurp. This one is tough. The top one is a tough row. Ooh. I'm going to have to put... Ooh, you know what? Dual Icor's bottom of S tier. I still think it's crazy, but I'm going to put it at the bottom of S tier. Then we're going to go Paris, Angstrom, Lex, Strun, Dual Toxicist, Sibris, which I think Sibris is better. Dual Toxicist, no, Burst in Dual Toxo. Torrid, I think Sibris is better than Torrid. And also, people are going to say, what the heck, but I think Furus is better than Torrid. And then Magistar. Voila, this is the final list of stuff. There you go. Now, I'm sure lots of people are going to disagree. This is purely subjective. There was probably a little bit of bias in here somewhere with the Dare or the Anku. But overall, I think this is a pretty fair rating. Maybe it'll change in the future. We'll see. Again, I mentioned at the start of this video, this is a very blatant cash grab. Let's go, because Poppy is very, very broke and made a horrible miscalculation when it comes to paying bills. I missed the deadline of hitting the payment minimum on YouTube for the month, so now I have to wait till next month to get paid, and I was really counting on that money to pay some bills, and I don't have that money now. So if I don't get money somehow, we're not gonna have food. That's gonna be a yowzas. Yeah, this is gonna be like a total wackadoodle, but hey, you know, if you happen to be massive big doo-doo rich and you want to be the channel member, that would be pretty snazzy. Or donate to my Ko-Fi. I'll leave that link in the description, because then YouTube doesn't take 50%. We're gonna leave it at that. But if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't like the video, leave a comment. Get clapped, even if it's a hateful comment. Joke's on you. The algorithm likes comments on my video, so I still win. Got 'em. Adios.